Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews. Thank you very much for checking out my video. Thank you for checking out all my previous videos, and thank you very much for subscribing. So I did say last time around that I am making changes. One of the changes that I have made, which I will show you now, is I bought a boom arm, the PSA 1, that works well with the Rode NT USB mic, and I'm hoping this improves the quality of my video sound, I should say, rather than overall package, I guess. So anyway, I had an interview today, so I had the day off, did the interview, come back, voila, One Piece is out. Let's get this review done. So you should find this video is going to be released a lot earlier than usual. I hope you don't mind. Enjoy. Let's get into the... So the chapter of the day. Bearing in mind I haven't read any of the other chapters just yet. I'm on Bleach, One Piece. Both are amazing. Bleach and One Piece getting done today because I've got a little bit extra time. I'll probably do the videos if I can for the other ones, but we'll get into it first. So the four segments really that I want to talk about: the Yonji situation, what happened with Yonji, the fight between Sanji and his dad, Sanji's backstory, a little bit of a flashback, and his current predicament. So I'll do it based on the order of the situation. Now, we find out what happened to Yonji. Yonji's face is a bit like redirected, and he's surprised by that this was possible. Now, this is kind of illustrated throughout the rest of the chapter, that people are always surprised about what Sanji is capable of. And this is to his backstory, and where he's come from to where he is now. So what I liked about this scene wasn't the fact that he was alive. I'm not too fussed because, let's face it doesn't mean related to Sanji's a bit of a prick. And the idea that he was using a hammer to try to fix his face was crazy enough, but then they get this big visor go bloop, like a Looney Tunes scene, and they fix his face. That was kind of cool, but the idea that he was surprised by Sanji was pretty nice. But he's alive, he's kicking, and somehow he fixed his face like a cartoon. But yeah, that's segment number 1. So, what a fight. The way we're going to deal with this fight is breaking it down like a play-by-play, give my thoughts on each thing, and go from there. So we'll start off with the whole thing. So people are from the German 66 to 66 are super excited, and they're like, yeah, what's going to happen now? It's the feet versus the spear. So it's a good little fight, and then like halfway through the fight, Sanji blocks the spear with his shin, which even surprised Judde. Goes to think that you'd be capable of haki, which A, shows that being able to use haki is actually a big thing even among the German 66, and B, they really underestimate Sanji for them to be surprised by the fact that he has haki. We also found a little tidbit of information that Sanji was once taught the sword, or the way of fighting with a sword, which is interesting, basically because that's probably how he's able to kind of deal a little bit with Zoro, so to speak. I don't mean deal like overwhelm, I mean as able to hang with him, being that Zoro's a beast, right? But it's probably also a subliminal way of him hating Zoro, or having that, that negative look towards Zoro, potentially because of things like that in his past. Then we get a breakdown of fights with techniques. Diablo Jumbo versus the Garuda. Now what happens is Sanji uses the Diablo Jumbo versus this Pike Spike type of Garuda attack, which reminds me of a Street Fighter EX character, mind you, and he seems to parry the spike, but mid-air Judge grabs his leg, comes back around, and pow, sends him to the ground. I think a lot of this is to do with having the wherewithal to fight, so I'd imagine there is a lot of fight experience Judge has had, but also more than likely to do with the technology he possesses. Remember, we saw Yonji with an ability to kind of float on water. I'm imagining it'll be something similar to this. Now after that, we get confirmation of this whole thing by technology, because basically it says advancement of technology is war, and he uses an electric attack to send Sanji flying. Sanji gets up, he basically used, I can't even pronounce the word, the PF move, the Puerta Fuera, versus Jajji again, and this time the wall gets involved, and he uses the wall, an electric attack to defeat Sanji. So there's a few things to take from this. One, Sanji's dad's a prick. There's no other way to put it. He is heartless, he is cold, something you'd expect from a general. Now, he's very much like a character we've all seen in East Blue, the guy with the big armada, Mr. Don Krieg. He's a very much a person like him, as expected, as people predicted, and uses cowardice in a certain way to get around this. But I think he's basically a little bit more than he is. Probably a lot more battle tested, probably more powerful. So to think that he was able to fight on a decent level with his father indicates a decent level of power. This doesn't, however, confirm the level of power that Judge or Junji, whatever, Jajji his name is, I think, right, is at. So we can't really take that for everything. So assuming he's at least Sanji's level, Sanji's vice admiral level at best at the moment from what we've seen. Don't get me wrong, don't start killing me, Sanji lovers. I like Sanji as well, not as much as Zoro, but I like him. But he's not been shown enough of. He can probably pull out some shit, we haven't seen it though. Anyway, so we don't know how powerful he is, but it was an interesting end to the fight, which leads on to the next segment. Sanji's flashback. What a poor child. What a poor upbringing. I feel sorry for Sanji. I don't understand. It doesn't really explain his mother's situation. It doesn't really explain his wanting to be be a lover rather than a fighter. But it does explain why he hates his family. Because even last chapter, this chapter, I'm not your son. This isn't my family. I ain't done it for you. I've done it for my crew. I couldn't care less about you lot. And he really is pushing that out. And the main reason why that is because they were pricks to him. They really were. And not one of his siblings even helped him. So all three brothers, not including Sanji, so that's Ichiji, Neji, Yonji, bullied Sanji. Not because he did anything wrong, but because he wanted to feed somebody below them. Poor people, rats they called them. And you can see why his and Red Leg Zeph had something in common way before they kind of grew up, as in spent time with each other. But I just thought they were pricks, and they called him the black sheep, and he wasn't worthy of being a son, and all this stuff. And even his sister, who's pretending to be nice right now, it was a bit of a cow. So to be honest with you, he's had a poor childhood. There's even a flashback panel of him being behind bars saying, "Please Dad, help me, it's dark in here." And I felt so bad for Sanji, and I thought, you know what, I understand you, mate. I understand. You really shouldn't like your family, not after the way they treated you. So that understands why he has that negative sentiment towards them. Doesn't explain the mother situation, but I'm sure we'll find out about that soon. So we find that out, and I was like, yo. And that's why in this chapter you see a lot of this. He was a weakling. He was a black sheep to them. So when he kicked Yonji's ass, when he was durable enough to take the father's attacks, that's a big deal. So what that tells me is not only was he not the black sheep, but he was the golden goose. And 2, he has outgrown them all. Okay, he might not have a devil fruit, and okay, he might not have such a backing like the German 666, but it shows his potential is a lot greater. Now, we don't really see all of Judge's attacks, and we don't know how powerful he really is. He is a bit of a scumbag at attacks. I honestly think, given the right situation, the Sanji will beat him. Not for plot purposes, or not for advancement of the story or anything like that. But you could tell in this fight that it wasn't easy for Judge, and Sanji was holding his own. Also, he was still on. You could see that the momentum was towards Judge's side, because there's parts where he blocked the haki kick and he was pushed back and he was like, So it was kind of still more towards Junji or whatever his name is, Mr. Van Smoke, okay, whatever. I still think Sanji can beat him. I honestly have that feeling. Well, even if he gets a power up, I think with the right motivation, I think Sanji, rather than just a power up, I think there's something inside that makes him special in fighting, and that's going to come out. And I think that's what's going to really make the difference. And then we get onto the last part, the dilemma for Sanji. So the last part, basically Sanji wakes up, he's getting taken care of by his sister, and he asks the question, he goes, you're this big dude, you're strong dude, you've got this army, why don't you just take care of the north? What do you need to be here for? And he basically, you hear to Mr. Vinsmoke's confirmation that basically it kind of makes it a certainty if we use Big Mom. Because don't get me wrong, I don't really want to be aligned with them, and I don't really want to go give up my sons. That's what I thought of you. So if you didn't think he was a prick before this chapter, you're really going to think he's a prick now. Because the only reason Sanji is there is the scapegoat, the failsafe, the throwaway son, the one son that they don't think that matters, and basically they're throwing him to the wolves, the sacrificial lamb, so to speak. And that's really the only reason Sanji is there. And basically they tell him, you know those collars that they have around, necks of slaves, you've got them around your wrists, so you don't fuck about. You're basically not going to be able to cook anymore, unless you're going to want to be able to cook with your feet. And the only people who have the keys is Big Mom. And if by chance you manage to get those keys and get away, we're not going to let you leave. So that's an interesting dilemma to be in, and it's the perfect reason why Luffy is on that. So I predict what's going to happen is going to be Luffy, Big Mom, get the keys, somehow deal with them, have to deal with the German 66. German 66 versus Papa, and Papa versus son Sanji and the rest of the crew. You got to bear in mind there's 5 children, 4 of them they're gonna have to fight. So if Sanji takes on Papa, I'd imagine Luffy will take on one of them, and the rest of the pirate crew will have to take on him, or they could go in a completely different direction. Now remember, I thought potentially one of the brothers was good as well. Might not be the case, but he might have developed in a different way. The only thing that stood out was last time he seemed a little bit more compassionate. When you look at him as a kid, he was a complete prick as well. He was probably one of the worst. He was laughing his ass off. Well, let's shit. But anyway, I feel bad for Sanji, but it's the year of Sanji. Sanji will prove himself. I really want him to use more haki though, because he's using haki more of a defensive. I want him to really channel that and get into an offensive way. I know they said his specialty is not meant to be armament haki, but the haki of presence, and I think he should really use that as an assassin to get around, and then use his haki when he needs to, but he needs to really ramp it up. I really want to see more from him. That's all for me today, guys. A decent chapter, 8 out of 10 easily for me. It's not quite a 10 out of 10 because it kind of was a negative chapter for me, not really for me, but in any case, lovely chapter, interesting ending. Let's see what happens next. Can't wait to see the next one. Hope you enjoy the video. Hope you enjoy the improvements with the mic, and I'll see you next time. Peace.